Hello again, everybody. I'm Matt Robinson, and welcome to another exciting edition of the League Wraparound. This is the program that gets you caught up on anything and everything happening around the NFL. Coming up on this edition of the program, we'll preview Week 9's most important games, including Thursday Night Football between the Houston Texans versus the New York Jets, the Indianapolis Colts versus the Minnesota Vikings, Monday Night Football between the Tampa Bay Buccaneers versus the Kansas City Chiefs, and so much more. Plus, we have your Week 9 game picks and so much more. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the program. And as always, before we preview Week 9's most important games, we're going to recap Week 8's most important games. Let's start off with Thursday Night Football. It was a good one between the Minnesota Vikings and the Los Angeles Rams. The Rams would go on to beat the Vikings 30-20. The Philadelphia Eagles handled their business, beating the Cincinnati Bengals 37-17. The Atlanta Falcons and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers had a close one, a great one in the NFC South showdown, but the Falcons would hold on to beat the Buccaneers 31-26. The Baltimore Ravens and the Cleveland Browns, AFC North showdown. Jameis Winston holds off Lamar Jackson in a good one. Browns would win 29-24. The Indianapolis Colts took on the Houston Texans. It was an AFC South game that was close and came down to the wire. The Texans would hold on to win 23-20. The Chicago Bears took on the Washington Commanders. What a thriller it was. Jaden Daniels completed a Hail Mary pass to Noah Brown with less than 5 seconds left in the game, gets the touchdown. Commanders win 18-15. Sunday Night Football saw the Dallas Cowboys take on the San Francisco 49ers. The 49ers would hold on to win 30-24. Monday Night Football saw the New York Giants take on the Pittsburgh Steelers. Steelers hold off the G-Men. Final score 26-18. And that takes care of your scores from Week 8's most important games. And as always, I like to start off with my top 3 storylines. I want to start off talking just about the Hail Mary pass outside of the nation's capital. So, if you've been living under a rock, the Chicago Bears and the Washington Commanders, 5 seconds left in the game, Bears was up 15-12. It appeared that the game was over with, but as the saying goes, it ain't over till the fat lady sings. And certainly, 5 seconds left in the game, the clock was rolling, and as the clock went to 0, Jaden Daniels escaped a couple of defenders. He got his positioning right, throws a bomb downfield, the ball is tipped to the back, and who's waiting in the end zone? Noah Brown for the Commanders catches the pass in the end zone on the Hail Mary pass. What a thriller. Commanders win 18-15. And this game is now being called the Madhouse in Maryland, or Hail Maryland, or Miracle in Maryland, or Hail Noah. Of course, if you're thinking about Maryland, the Washington Commanders, they play outside of the nation's capital in Landover, Maryland. But first of all, there was a lot of things that went right, and there were a lot of things that went wrong. First, here are the things that went right. Jaden Daniels, despite having a rib injury, he used his awareness, he used his athletic ability to get away from defenders, and he used his arm strength to put that ball up. Here's what went wrong. Chicago Bear defensive back Tyreek Stevenson taunting the crowd as the play was going on. He wasn't even in position until after the fact. By the time the ball had been tipped, Stevenson got to his assignment too late, and Noah Brown was there to catch the touchdown. You talk about a miscarriage of injustice for the Chicago Bears. Terrible. Just straight terrible. And be careful what you do to others, man, because it could come back to bite you. And Tyreek Stevenson spoke too soon. And again, it ain't over till the fat lady sings. And she sung loud when the fans at Northwest Stadium in Landover, Maryland, that touchdown, Jaden Daniels to Noah Brown on the Hail Mary. Man, you talk about phenomenal. Really, the highlight of week 8. And certainly, it's been a tough week for a lot of Chicago Bears fans. Chicago sports talk radio stations were just angry for all of the right reasons. And remember, Washington was beating Chicago for 3 quarters, but Caleb Williams was able to use his athletic ability, was able to make some key passes to Keenan Allen, Rome Odunze, and DJ Moore. However, stuff had hit the fan when, on a goal line situation, there was a fumble. There was an offensive lineman came in as an eligible running back. They tried to do the old refrigerator Perry thing. That didn't work out so well. But man, what a finish. What a game that was in Landover, Maryland, between the Chicago Bears and the Washington Commanders, with the Commanders and the Hail Mary pass with Noah Brown catching it in the end zone and getting a touchdown. My next storyline is going to be the Dallas Cowboys. So the Cowboys, it's the soap opera that never ends. So after getting beat by the Detroit Lions in week 6, they had the bye week, and hopefully it would have served as an opportunity for the Cowboys to get their ducks in a row, get their stuff together, and just to rebound from that being dismantled by the Detroit Lions over 2 weeks ago. Well, guess what? They lose another game. They face their longtime rival San Francisco 49ers out on the West Coast. The 49ers beat them for the first 3 quarters of the game. The fourth quarter, there were signs where Dak, CD, and company, they were starting to turn the tide a little bit. But in the end, the Cowboys, another turnover. Hey, as they say, that's that's the way the story goes, right? It's just been one of those seasons for the boys, and man, it's not going to get easier anytime soon, because the next games that they have the Falcons, followed by Philly, and then there's Houston, and then they're at Washington, and then there's a home game against the Giants. So the Giants will be a winnable game. Atlanta, Philly, Houston, and Washington, those games are going to be tough. Micah Parsons looks like he may not be ready to come back as of yet. And again, it's the soap opera that never ends. It's always drama in Dallas. Jerry Jones continuing to make radio interviews, giving excuses, saying why the team hasn't been giving excuses on why he believes the team is going to be better, where they're not getting better. The injuries, Mike McCarthy, his job is on the line. I really think Jerry's going to bring him back. I don't know why, but I tell you one thing. I thought after the bye week, I thought the Cowboys would try to hand it to the 49ers, but it was not the case. San Francisco had their number really for most of the game, and it's not going to get any easier for the Cowboys. And for my last storyline is going to be Jameis Winston. So Jameis Winston, after winning the Heisman Trophy at Florida State University, first 5 seasons in the NFL was with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. His last year with the Bucs, not only was he the league's leading passer, he also led the league, unfortunately, in interceptions thrown. Then 4 seasons alternating as a backup and a starter in New Orleans. There was the year where Jameis really got on a roll in 2021, and people, including myself, was saying if Jameis Winston continues on this roll, he has a chance to possibly win the league MVP. Well, Jameis tore his ACL and had damage to his MCL done for the year. And Jameis, during his last several years in New Orleans, alternated, as I stated earlier, between a backup and a starter. So now Jameis, during the offseason, signs a 1-year deal with the Cleveland Browns. Quarterback Deshaun Watson, done for the year, tearing his Achilles in the Week 8 game against the Cincinnati Bengals. Jameis becomes the starter. And man, what a performance that he had in the win against the Baltimore Ravens. Jameis Winston was outstanding. 334 yards, 3 touchdown passes, no interceptions. I mean, one thing about Jameis Winston, he always comes ready to play. And Jameis Winston, he has no fear, none whatsoever. He had no fear playing for Florida State. He had no fear playing for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He had no fear when his time with the New Orleans Saints. And so far, he's displaying no fear playing for the Cleveland Browns. And could Jameis Winston be this year's Joe Flacco? Still relatively early in the year, but Jameis Winston put on a great performance from a great upset victory over the Baltimore Ravens. And certainly Jameis Winston, one thing about Jameis, he's going to give his all no matter the circumstances. And certainly Jameis Winston is somebody that, hey, give him an opportunity, he'll definitely make the most out of it. All right, so some other news to pass along to you. The Minnesota Vikings, they get an offensive lineman. They get Cam Robinson. They acquired Robinson from the Jacksonville Jaguars. So Robinson and a conditional 2026 7th-round draft pick will be traded, or has been traded, I should say, to the Minnesota Vikings in exchange for a conditional 2026 5th-round draft pick. So again, Cam Robinson and a conditional 2026 7th-round draft pick traded from the Jacksonville Jaguars to the Minnesota Vikings in exchange for a conditional 2026 5th-round draft pick. All right, now it's time to preview Week 9's most important games in the NFL. Thursday Night Football, the Houston Texans go up against the New York Jets. So let's start off with the Houston Texans. The Texans pulled off a close one over the Indianapolis Colts. Final score 23-20. CJ Stroud had a solid game, had a good game against the Colts. Unfortunately, the Texans hit with some heartbreak and hit with some devastating news that wide receiver Stephon Diggs will be out for the rest of the season with a torn ACL. And Tank Dell played well against the Colts in the Texans' victory over Indy. Nico Collins is expected to be back maybe within a week or 2 weeks, but Houston, still have some momentum coming into this game because they're going to be going up against a team that their expectations have fallen very, very low. The New York Jets. The Jets losing to the New England Patriots, their AFC East rival last week. People are starting to say that the Aaron Rodgers experiment is failing. It's a disappointment. Some people are saying that Rodgers is washed. I'm not ready to say washed just yet, but I don't know. The Jets, again, the Super Bowl aspirations, and you've seen all of the things that have transpired with the firing of head coach Robert Saleh, bringing in the interim Jeff Ulbrich, also Nathaniel Hackett, no longer the play caller. Todd Dowling is now the play caller, and bringing Devontae Adams over in a trade from the Raiders. Things still just can't seem to get right with the Jets. I mean, when haven't things been right for the Jets? It's been a minute, but Halloween, spooky things always happening with the Jets, spooky things always happening in the New Jersey Meadowlands. And this is the game where the Jets have got to get their stuff together. No more excuses. If they lose this game, basically, I hate to say this, I don't want to sound premature about this, but you can stick a fork in the season for the Jets. It's practically over with. I don't know how effective Hassan Reddick will be in this game. We'll see, but Texans and Jets, hopefully the Jets can put up a strong effort because Houston, they still have the goods. Despite the Stephon Diggs injury, they still have CJ Stroud as their quarterback, so CJ can make things happen, not just with his arm, but with his athletic ability as well. So Halloween night is going to be spooky indeed with the Houston Texans taking on the New York Jets. Thursday Night Football. The Atlanta Falcons will square off against the Dallas Cowboys. So the Cowboys coming off of the bye week after that disappointing loss after being dismantled by the Detroit Lions. Hopefully, some people predicted it would be better for the Cowboys coming off of the bye week. They fell short on Sunday Night Football in the hands of the San Francisco 49ers. So for the Cowboys, they've got a chance to redeem themselves as they take on the Atlanta Falcons. For the Falcons, a big win, an important win over their division rival at Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Falcons defensively, so-so, but their calling card is offense. Kirk Cousins, not afraid to throw 30, 40, 50 times a game. Bijan Robinson, you know what he brings to the table. Kyle Pitts, Drake London. That's basically been Atlanta's calling card really for a long time. Not big on the defense, but they'll take it to the air and they will pass the ball if need be. And this could be a showdown in the quarterbacks with Dak Prescott going up against Kirk Cousins. Also, CeeDee Lamb is in the mix as well. And this could be an exciting game. I think this could be a thrilling game between the Dallas Cowboys and the Atlanta Falcons. It's going to be in Atlanta, so hey, never a dull moment in the ATL, and certainly a big one with the Cowboys going up against the Dirty Birds. We have the Washington Commanders going up against the New York Giants. So for the Commanders, still riding in an emotional high off of the Hail Mary pass and the victory over the Chicago Bears last week. Jaden Daniels played solid despite a rib injury. He looks like he's going to be ready to go in this game against their NFC East rival, New York Giants. For the Giants, tough loss to the Pittsburgh Steelers. I don't know what's going on with the team. If you watch the Monday night game against the Steelers, you could see Giants wide receiver Malik Neighbors not happy, frustrated. Daniel Jones. What can you say about Danny Dimes, right? Still not being efficient. Just, I still can't get the whole contract extension that he got a couple of years ago, but that's another story for another day. The Giants struggling under 500. They have a home game at MetLife Stadium going up against their division rival Commanders that are just, again, they're riding a high right now off of that victory over the Chicago Bears. And not just Jaden Daniels, but Terry McLaurin, so underrated, one of my favorite receivers in the league. You've also got Luke McCaffrey, who's very effective. You've also got at the tight end position, Zach Ertz, who's found the fountain of youth in Washington. On the defensive side, Bobby Wagner, he's found the fountain of youth as well. So it should be an interesting game at MetLife Stadium between the Washington Commanders and the New York Giants. We have the Los Angeles Chargers going up against the Cleveland Browns. So for the Chargers, just completely dismantled the New Orleans Saints. It started off as a baseball score, but once Justin Herbert and the offense got going, it was full speed ahead. They mashed on the gas and there was no turning back. And as for the Cleveland Browns, great come from behind victory, great victory for the Cleveland Browns, and specifically for Jameis Winston. Jameis coming in and being the starter despite the whole circumstances with Deshaun Watson being out for the year. And Jameis is always ready to ball. As I stated earlier, no fear, none whatsoever when it comes to Jameis Winston. So Chargers and Browns, I think this is going to be a case, or should I say a showdown between the quarterbacks with Justin Herbert and Jameis Winston. I think this is going to be a fun one in Cleveland, and the dog pound will be in full force for this game with the Chargers and the Browns. We have a fantastic NFC North rivalry game between the Detroit Lions and the Green Bay Packers. So let's start with the Lions for a moment. The Lions handled their business, just beating the brakes off of the Tennessee Titans. Jared Goff doing what Jared Goff does best, right? Getting it done with his arm. And also Jahmyr Gibbs doing what Jahmyr Gibbs does best, running north, south, east, and west and getting scores. David Montgomery had a touchdown in this game, and the usual suspects contributed, right? Amon-Ra St. Brown, Sam Laporta, Khalif Raymond. That offense is just so on fire right now, and not just head coach Dan Campbell, but the offensive coordinator Ben Johnson has done a solid job since those two have been together at the helm as far as the offensive side is concerned for the Detroit Lions. And they're going to be going up into one of the most fantastic venues in all of sports, Lambeau Field. So for the Green Bay Packers, Jordan Love suffered a groin injury in the victory over the Jacksonville Jaguars. Malik Willis came in and was efficient in relief efforts. And it looks as though Jordan Love is going to be playing in this game against the Lions. And certainly this is going to be a game that is going to be a one for the ages. When you think of Lions and Packers, that rivalry goes back a long time, even some good Thanksgiving games as well. But this is the perfect time of the year, late October going into early November. Lions, Packers, Lambeau Field. This is going to be a fun one. Jared Goff, Jordan Love and company. This is going to be a great one with the Detroit Lions going up against the Green Bay Packers. We have the Los Angeles Rams going up against the Seattle Seahawks. So for the Rams, beating the Vikings on Thursday Night Football, Matthew Stafford, hey, age truly ain't nothing but a number. And certainly age is nothing but a number to Matthew Stafford. Hey, he still has that arm, but he still has a little athletic ability where he can escape defenders and make throws on the run when necessary. And as for the Seattle Seahawks, tough loss to the Buffalo Bills. They were so embarrassed in that contest. Geno Smith couldn't hold on to the ball, too many fumbles, also too many turnovers, too many penalties. It was basically adding insult to injury with the Seahawks and the way they lost to the Buffalo Bills. So the Rams and the Seahawks is going to be an NFC West division rivalry game. It's always interesting. It's always interesting storylines when the Rams and the Seahawks play, and it should be a good one up in the Pacific Northwest. Sunday Night Football, the Indianapolis Colts against the Minnesota Vikings. So for the Colts, losing a tough one to their AFC South rival Houston Texans. Anthony Richardson was asked why did he come out for a play. He admitted in the post-game press conference that he said he was tired and he just felt gassed. And as a result of that, Richardson benched, and Joe Flacco will be the starter for the Sunday night game against the Minnesota Vikings. Anthony Richardson has not played well so far as the quarterback of the Colts. In the game against the Texans, he only had under 100 yards passing in the contest. And so far, Richardson's completion percentage this year has been under 50%. And as a result of that, and of course with Richardson claiming that he was tired for a play, they bring the veteran in, Joe Flacco, to be the starter for Sunday Night Football. And as for the Vikings, tough loss against the Los Angeles Rams on Thursday Night Football, and they're hungry. They want a victory. Sam Darnold, Aaron Jones. Also, you can't forget about Justin Jefferson, one of the most electrifying wide receivers and players in the NFL. I know Jordan is destined for a big game against the Indianapolis Colts. This should be an interesting one considering the storylines with Richardson being benched in favor of Flacco, the Vikings coming off that loss from Thursday night, and with it being a Sunday night game, the stars are going to be out and the lights are going to be bright with a fun one between the Indianapolis Colts and the Minnesota Vikings. Monday Night Football, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers versus the Kansas City Chiefs. So for the Buccaneers, tough loss against their NFC South rival Atlanta Falcons. For the Kansas City Chiefs, they just continue to roll along As this show is airing, the Chiefs remain undefeated. They beat their AFC West rival Las Vegas Raiders. So Buccaneers and Chiefs, we've got the quarterbacks taking center stage. We've got Baker Mayfield. We've got Patrick Mahomes. And it's not just about Baker and Patrick. We've also got other important players in the mix, right? Travis Kelce, Xavier Worthy. Also, you can't forget about the new addition to the Chiefs with DeAndre Hopkins. And how about Kansas City's defense? Kansas City's defense has really been, they've really taken center stage the last couple of years with the likes of a Nick Bolton and Drew Tranquill and also Leo Chanel, George Karlaftis, just to name a few, Shamari Connor. The Chiefs, I mean, they're at the peak of their powers right now, but Baker Mayfield, he's got a challenge ahead of him going to one of the loudest, if not the loudest, stadium in the NFL at Arrowhead Stadium. Should be a fun one Monday night with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers going up against the Kansas City Chiefs. All right, now it's time for my game of the week. My game of the week will be the Detroit Lions versus the Green Bay Packers. When you think of the Lions and Packers, you think of the original NFL in the golden age, so to speak, or maybe the days before the merger during the 40s, 50s, and the 60s. Not just football in the Midwest or just football in the North, but just classic NFL football and how these two teams are joined at the hip. Detroit, Green Bay. Hall of Famers, both sides, much respect both for both organizations and the players they've produced. We've seen so many great moments in this rivalry with the Lions and the Packers. Most recent, Aaron Rodgers with the Hail Mary pass, throwing it to Richard Rodgers for the touchdown. Not just great memories in Detroit, but also great memories, of course, at Lambeau Field in Green Bay as well. Barry Sanders, Reggie White, Antonio Freeman, just to name a few. Recently as Aaron Rodgers. Packers and Lions, man, so many great games, not just Thanksgiving games, but just regular season games as a whole. And I think we're going to be in a treat, should I say, we'll be treated to one heck of a game between the Lions and the Packers. We've got two quarterbacks that are very dynamic, Jared Goff, Jordan Love. Two offenses that can put points up. Both offenses with great wide receiver play, such as Amon-Ra St. Brown and also Romeo Doubs, Christian Watson. Both teams can really turn it on, and both teams have been exciting the last several years. Lions and Packers, let's face it, Lions and Packers, whenever they play, it's always exciting. But when they play at Lambeau, it's just something special. And with that crowd in a late afternoon game, all bets are off. You know you're going to be in for something special. You know it is going to be a treat. And there's always drama. There's always something that's going to happen between these two teams. And we saw recently with the quarterbacks, when Matthew Stafford was the quarterback for the Lions and when Aaron Rodgers was the quarterback with the Packers. And now we're going to see it with the new breed with Jared Goff for Detroit and Jordan Love with Green Bay. This is going to be a fun one. Lions, Packers, Detroit versus Green Bay. My game of the week. All right, before we get on out of here, I want to give you my picks on who I think will win Week 9's most important games. Thursday Night Football, the Houston Texans and the New York Jets. I think the Jets will bring more fight, but I like the Texans to win in a close one. The Atlanta Falcons versus the Dallas Cowboys. I like Atlanta to win. The Washington Commanders versus the New York Giants. I like Washington to win. The Los Angeles Chargers versus the Cleveland Browns. I like Cleveland to win. My game of the week, the Detroit Lions versus the Green Bay Packers. Close game, but I'm going for the Lions to win. The Los Angeles Rams go up against the Seattle Seahawks. I like the Rams to win. Sunday Night Football, the Indianapolis Colts versus the Minnesota Vikings. I like Minnesota to win. Monday Night Football, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers versus the Kansas City Chiefs. I like the Chiefs to win. So again, my picks are Houston, Atlanta, Washington, Cleveland, Detroit, LA Rams, Minnesota, Kansas City. And that's it. And there you have it. And that's going to do it for another edition of the program. Again, thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, everybody, be safe and enjoy the games. Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning into the channel. Remember to click like, share, and subscribe. And thank you for watching.